4, 3, 2, 1, boom. So what? 100-mile man or 100 man? What is it?
The 100-mile man.
What is that?
I ran a 100-mile race years ago, and I'd say,
like, I'm the fucking man.
let me grab it if it's available.
That's cool that you got it, man, because that's a very popular thing now.
Yeah.
Did you run this before or after you did the book with David Goggins?
I ran it before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think at the time when I did it, there were like 400 Americans that ran 100 miles or something.
Oh, really?
It wasn't a lot, so that's why it was available.
Isn't it crazy how many people do it now?
Yeah, I think I was trying to figure out in my head how many do it a year and like how many races, 100-mile races are there a month, and then multiply it out. So probably 5,000 or 6,000, I'm guessing.
5,000 or 6,000 people have done it?
I think so.
Wow.
Americans, yeah. It's a long way.
It's a long fucking way. We were just about talking right before the podcast about how Miss America yanked off they're no longer judged by their beauty. And I posted this because I thought it was silly. And there's just these fights online, man. There's fucking fights in the comments and fights, and people are tense.
Yeah.
People need to go out and run those 100 miles, man.
Yeah, they loosen up fast. Fast.
I know what the fuck is going. Miss America is scrapping the swimsuit competition. Will no longer be judged on physical appearance. It's literally a beauty contest. That is what it is.
What are they replacing it with?
I mean, I gotta think it's like when Playboy decided to not have people nude.
Right.
That like, here's the thing. But no longer judging them on their physical appearance. Well, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a
twist. We are no longer a pageant, Gretchen Carlson says. We're a competition. Okay. I give up.
I don't know. I think that might have be a hurt the ratings a little bit.
I think a little bit. Or not. Maybe people will get very excited about it. Maybe it'll ramp up.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of talk.
Yeah, maybe people will be pissed off, and so they'll tune in. It's just, I don't know.
Where do you stand on it?
I don't give a fuck. It's so stupid. Miss America, I mean, this is what's really fascinating to me is that I was reading the comments, a lot of feminists were angry at me that I was mocking, and I saw a few of them. I don't get it. Like, why would you even want a who I'd most like to fuck contest? Because that's what it is. I mean, that's really what it is. You're having these gals parade around their bikini. It's a beauty contest. Do we have a Mr. America contest? Like, is that just the president? Is that what the Mr. American contest is?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I was trying to ask you as someone who's deeply connected to competition and mindsets.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not following it that closely. But I am going to miss that part of the competition, to be honest with you.
Are you, though, really?
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities to see people naked today.
Yeah, but, as a kid watching the Miss America pageant,
right.
I was like, there weren't a lot of options.
Back then, yeah. Kids today are broken.
Sports Illustrated and
that's
the
right.
pageant.
Swimsuit issue. I wonder if they're going to continue the swimsuit issue. Maybe they'll just see their faces and just have to assume they're in their swimsuit. And then, there'll be like a bubble, a thought bubble, and it'll be filled with an amazing quote that they say. That'll be the new swimsuit issue. Because we're just judging them on their minds.
Right. And the content.
Yes, the content. Speaking of content, Living with Monks.
Yes.
What is it called?
Living with the Monks.
Living with the Monks. This is your new book.
Yes.
Why'd you decide to do that? And how long did you do it for?
I did it for 15 days.
That's enough.
That's more than enough, man. Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Go like this for an hour, your finger will fall off.
What are you doing with your finger? Up and down, up and to the
just
side?
a repetition.
What did you have to do?
I lived with, there were 8 monks, 4 of which have been there for 50 years.
50?
50 on a monastery, 500 acres, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I went for 15 days. So I figured, I'd invested so much of my life on the physical side and ran 100 miles and just always active and this and that, and have really invested very little on my own inner work. And I just felt like, man, I just felt overwhelmed a little bit. And I said to my wife, who are the masters? And everything pointed to monks. And I said, I want to go live on a monastery.
There's something romantic about that, right? It's almost like the guy who goes off into the woods to write a book, like being with a monk like, and just being, you know, in a monastery with monks. There's something very romantic about that, right? That you've shed all your worldly belongings and you no longer care about the day-to-day nonsense that everybody is fixated on. You just decide to just home.
Yes.
Home all day.
You could do it, man.
I don't want to do it, man.
You should
do it. I live the opposite of a monk's life. My life is filled with bullshit.
I get it. Yeah.
So where'd you go?
So I went to a monastery just south of Canada in the States.
Ah.
Yeah, but no.
What state is it?
It was in upstate New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like on the Vermont border, and it was you know, no phone, total kind of separation from my family. I have 4 kids, my wife, and just got to know myself a little bit.
Wow. Now, when you were up there, was there any time where you're like, "What the fuck am I doing?"
Like 1 minute into it. When I first got up there, the main monk, like my go-to monk,
Yeah.
brother Christopher, took me to my room. They call the rooms a cell, which is about the size of this table. And I had a bed. I walked in, there was a bed. There was a little desk with a night lamp on it and nothing on the walls. And he said, tomorrow we're going to start prayer, reflection, and meditation at 7:15 a.m. And I looked at my watch and it was 6 p.m. And I asked him, well, what do we do between now and 7:15 a.m.? And he looked at me dead in the eye and he said, you think. And I said to myself, I'm fucked. Because I'm like, I don't really like spend a lot of time in thought. So I went and I said, okay, I'm gonna meditate. You know, like I'm here. Let me start this journey with meditation. I had taken a course in transcendental meditation. I'm not a big meditation guy, other than running. And so I set my timer for 20 minutes and I sat down in my chair and I started like focusing on my mantra, and like immediately I'm bombarded with how is my wife, how are the kids, the Hawks, like all this, you know,
Hawks?
The Atlanta Hawks. I live in Atlanta, like, you know, not your kind of hawk. Everything's coming at me and I'm, you know, time is going by and I'm just getting bombarded with thought and I'm like, why isn't my timer buzzed? Like I've been here forever. So I was going to look and reset my thing. And I'm like, that would be cheating. Let me keep going. And I'm going and all the time's going by. And finally I'm like, the fuck is going on with my timer, you know? So I opened my eyes and I looked to reset my timer. It's 3 minutes and 27 seconds.
No.
And I said to I started.
You really thought it was 20 minutes?
I thought it was like hours, man. I mean, like I've never really sat in a room like with nothing going on and just closed my eyes alone and thought, and time just stopped. And I calculated how much time I have left, like 15 days times 24 hours or 60 minutes. And I said to myself, like, man, I'm in trouble. This isn't this isn't what, I'm on Gilligan's Island. This is a real, like, I can't get out of here. And I had a really hard time with it.
What was the commitment?
The commitment was 15 days.
So it was
a personal commitment. Yeah.
You did it up to you. Like there was nothing in writing. And did you have a way to escape?
I mean, I was thinking of escape plans, but on the monastery, and this is a little crazy, the way the monks keep the lights on is they breed German Shepherds. That's how they make money. They breed German Shepherds. They're the largest.
Oh, I've seen this. They wrote a book.
Yeah, they wrote a book.
I have the book. It's a book about raising puppies.
Correct.
The same guys?
Same guys.
Ah.
So they weren't Buddhists. They were Russian Orthodox. And they raise German Shepherds. So they live on this property, and there are these 11 German Shepherds. And at the end of the property, the only way off the property, were 2 mobile homes, unconnected to the monastery, at the end of this road that leads up to the monastery. And both of those homes had German Shepherds as well that were a little territorial. So there really was no way for me to escape. Like I couldn't, I ran 120 miles up and down the driveway while I was there because I couldn't leave the property.
So you just timed yourself or paced yourself with using an app or something like that?
No, I said like 2,000 steps equals a mile.
So you counted your steps?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, I counted it. I marked it.
What did they think about you running back and forth like that?
Thought I was a fucking psychopath. I'm like, you guys have been here for 50 years, man.
50
I'm just trying to get
years.
some exercise.
Now, what are the guys like that have been there for 50 years?
Quiet. No, they were extremely. Listen, they were doing what they wanted to do with their life, so they were super happy.
Really?
Yeah, super present. I mean, very present. And I mean, I live in a world of to-do lists, man, and
Right.
they were very present, very happy, and really, really nice to me and everybody.
Did you talk to them? They speak English?
Mm-hmm.
What was the conversation like? Like, what do you say to a guy who's been in a monastery for 50 years, just staring at the walls?
Well, I could have talked to him about the pageant. That would have been an interesting conversation.
He probably been super confused.
When I first got up there and they would ask me a little bit about my background, I told them, I was in the private jet business. They didn't understand private jets really. And then I said I had a coconut water company. They never heard of coconut water. I told them I was involved with the Atlanta Hawks. And one of the monks said, I've been to an Expos game. And I'm like, that's a different sport and they don't exist anymore. And it was just very time warped at first. It was really interesting. Really interesting.
Jesus. Now, what led these guys that are 50 years on the monastery? How old were they?
So some of the age range from, I think the youngest monk was probably 35 up until late 70s.
So late 70s were the guys that had been there for 50 years?
Yeah.
So they checked in when they were 20?
Yeah, in their young 20s.
In the same spot?
They actually built this monastery by hand. They bought 500 acres for I think it was like $50,000 or something. I mean, something crazy. And then they built the monastery by hand. And so it's been a passion of love and labor, and they've been there since.
And so they vow celibacy, the whole deal?
Celibacy, poverty.
Poverty and celibacy at 20.
Yeah. They take a vow of 4 things of celibacy, poverty. They pledge all their personal belongings to the monastery. So really their only possession is a driver's license, obedience, and stability, meaning we're not leaving. Like, this is what we're going to do. So, I mean, talk about discipline, just off the charts.
This is what we're going to do forever.
Forever.
And where do they get funding?
They're self-sufficient, so they breed German Shepherds, they sell them. That's kind of one income stream. And then they're masters, world masters of dog training. So every 2 weeks they have 10 dogs that come in, and I watch this. I mean, dogs come in like Spuds MacKenzie and leave like they just left etiquette school. Like it was like anytime you're in the presence of the people that are the best in the world at what they do, it's fucking fascinating. And these guys were masters. They are the masters of, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are great, but in their space of dog training and breeding.
What was so special about the way they trained dogs?
Just the command, like they had an energy that the dogs responded to. I mean, like I would walk in, the dogs would go crazy. They'd sniff my nuts, they'd jump, like they'd go nuts.
Right.
These guys would walk in and like they could just sense
that they were in control.
That they were in control.
Yeah.
And like the eye contact, everything, the way that they talk, their tone, their hand mannerisms, they just have mastered this, and they have a deep connection with the dogs.
Dogs are weird in that way. Like I have a 1-year-old golden retriever, and he has different rules for different people, and he knows who he can get away with what with. Like my wife's mom has 0 shot at controlling this dog. Like it's like
right.
He's like, no, I'm the boss. I think I'm gonna jump up on you and kiss you. No, I'm gonna just run around. I'm gonna put my paws on you when you sit in the chair. Right. And we're like, Marshall, come on, man, what the fuck? What is this? You don't do this. And it doesn't matter. When she's here, he just decides, nah, new set of rules with this lady. She doesn't seem to know what the fuck to do with me. But when I had a trainer that I worked with him for in the beginning when I first got him, and when Ryan, the trainer, comes over, he just like sits down, he's super chill, he listens, he's like, oh, this guy knows what the fuck to do. Yeah. He knows how to control me.
Right.
It's very interesting. He's even different with me than he is with my friends. Like my friends will come over, he's like, let me try you out, motherfucker. Put my paws on you, see what's up. And I wish he would be like across the board with everybody, but it's all love, so it's not bad. He's just a lovey dog.
Yeah.
But it's just like paws on you and shit, And
I'm not really a dog person. I like dogs. But
Do you have one? No?
No. But we don't really connect.
You don't connect with the dogs?
I mean, I'm not like instant love when they see me. the way that they are with other people, you know. But the monks were teaching me various lessons, almost like Karate Kid style, through the dogs. So like the first day I got there, every day I was assigned a different role. I would shadow one of the monks, and there were 8, and they had different responsibilities around the monastery. The first day I was in the training center with one of the monks that was training the dog, and my job was to be the distractor. So Rainbow, this dog, would walk around, and I would fucking go at him and jump and run and like try to, you know, whatever, get him to break his goal of going. They were kind of simulating a park scene or a city scene and making this dog not get distracted. So I would go nuts with a pork chop and this and throw whatever. The dog would just go unwavering from point A to point B. And the monk said to me at the end, he's like, it's just like life, man. He's like, if you have a goal, just like Rainbow's goal is to get from A to B, you can't be distracted in your goal. And I was like, that makes sense. Some Karate Kid stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I was like,
wax on.
Yeah, like wax on. But all these different lessons started to emerge. And it was pretty interesting.
Wow. So that is interesting. It's interesting too that they're doing it with German Shepherds, who are really, really smart dogs. I want, like, what's a dumb dog? What's like a generally thought of as a dumb dog? I'm trying to think. Trying to think, like, what would generally be thought of as a dumb dog? There's no like prejudices for dogs, right? Is there? Is there like one breed where you're like, this dumb fucking breed? I don't think of like if you say like a dumb dog, there's dumb individual dogs, but I don't ever think of like, oh, that there's some dogs that are like spastic, right? Like Jack Russell Terriers are kind of spastic, but that's because they were raised to kill rats. And they just like, they have a high kill drive and they're super hyper. But like, I can't think of a dog that's supposed to be stupid. But German Shepherds are generally supposed to be smart.
This list says English Bulldogs, but I don't know if that's
really
necessarily true.
I think they're just lazy, man. My dog, Brutus, is half English Bulldog and half Shiba Inu. He just has bad joints and he's just lazy. He's just, I don't think he's stupid. He's kind of a dick. He's a dick to other dogs, but I just think that's because he's in pain a lot.
These dogs were super smart.
They're so smart, man. Those dogs look at you, and they're sizing you up, checking you out, seeing what the fuck you're up to, making sure you're cool. But there's like this feeling like they know they could kill you. Like they're looking at you like, I could kill you, but I'm just checking you out.
I had that feeling that they could kill me too.
Yeah, it's a real feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can.
And they were like, I was scared they were sensing that. Just trying to like downplay my fear.
Yeah, my friend who trains him has a dog that's like, he does police work, and it's like a serious fucking dog. And he'll attack like a thing if you're holding like a stick, like on command. And he jumps, and one of the things that he does, he bites the stick, and then 2 paws go right into your nuts. And I don't think it's on purpose, but damn, it's an effective strategy. Like it's like bite and then nut stomp all in one maneuver.
Right.
Yeah, but those dogs are, you know, they're a dog that's sort of bred and designed for protection work and police work and stuff.
Yeah, they are, and they train their dogs as pets, so they didn't do any kind of, you know, police work or anything like that. So the 11 German Shepherds that were on the property were super well behaved. I mean, like ridiculously well behaved.
So when they train them, are they just training them to make sure that they're obedient? You know, they just listen, watch the house, bark at strangers, that kind of shit?
Yeah, hand signals, obedient, you know, not jumping, but really that, you know, they know who's in control.
So did these guys do that before they started running the monastery, or was it something that they decided to do while they had the monastery?
No, so they fell into it. They didn't go up there. None of them had any experience in dog training. That wasn't the intent. They just said, we got to keep the lights on here. And they had a dog. They had a dog that as a pet, and fell in love with the dog. And ultimately, when the dog passed away, the dog got killed. They wanted another dog, and they went to a breeder, and they got 2 dogs. And they realized that once they bred an amazing puppy, their first litter, and trained these dogs, that there was demand, and they just scaled it like any other business. You know, and they learned along the way, trial and error, just like any entrepreneur. I mean, these guys were like, first of all, they were monks, and they're super spiritual, they're religious, they were Russian Orthodox, they're not Buddhist, and but they're amazing entrepreneurs. I mean, like, they ran this thing super efficiently.
But the point would only be to make enough money to keep the lights on.
Correct.
So as an entrepreneur, it's almost like they're limited in their ambition.
I think excess, you know, it's not like if they have excess money and revenue, it's not going to material things, but it's for the life and the extension of the monastery. Yeah.
So they would save it and put it away for taxes or what have you.
Yeah, or they have, you know, they're in the hands of God. They don't have a lot of litters, or they don't have a lot of puppies, or they have no income.
Right, right. That's fascinating. Now, these guys, what do they do for recreation?
They pray.
Jesus.
They think. They read.
What do they read?
And they had like an amazing collection of books.
Fiction?
Everything.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Super well read.
So they do have some entertainment in terms of like fiction.
Yeah. And, you know, periods of it, and I went up there with no expectation. I'd heard of monks. I've seen monks in movies and read articles and blogs, but I didn't know much about it.
Right. About
the culture, certainly about Russian Orthodox and the different factions and this and that. So I went up there eyes wide open, and but I went up there really just to detach and get away from feeling overloaded and feeling distracted. And man, I'm a father of 4, and I have a business, and my wife has an entrepreneur, etc. And I just wanted to see, like, you know, this is kind of been my journey. I learned best by diving into the unknown, just like I did with David, and just as I've done in businesses and other things. It's just like, I learned best by going into the unknown. So I didn't do a lot of research around them or how they made money or this or that. I just kind of showed up.
Wow. It's a crazy undertaking. But I guess if you knew you only had 15 days, at least you have like some light at the end of the rainbow. When that 15th day came, and would you get in a car and drive away from that place?
Yeah.
How fucking good did it feel? Did you check your phone? Did you check your text messages?
Felt really good.
See what's going on Twitter?
on day 4 and 5, I was already kind of making I was rationalizing in my head that 7 days would be enough. So like in my head, I was going home day 7.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, I was like, no one's going to know the difference or care if I went 15 days or 7 days. Or
is that like if you're at mile 50 and you're like, that's enough?
It is.
Same kind of thing?
Same kind of thing, until you wake up the next day and you're like, I dropped out.
Right.
And you feel like, you know. So anyway, I decided, like, you know, I'm going to stick this out. And then when I left, it was a good feeling. And the feeling was proud. I felt proud of myself for sticking through it. You know,
isn't that funny? These guys have been there for 50 years.
50 years, man.
And you're like, I did it 2 weeks, man.
Yeah. It felt good.
I bet it did.
It also felt good to go into a bed.
Well, it's the 50 years when you're describing that seems so insane to me that I can't even relate. But when you're talking about your 15 days, I'm like, man, you poor bastard. Like, I feel bad for you. The guy, the 50 years, he might as well be living in another dimension as far as I'm concerned. The guy, I mean, went in there in his 20s. That is just so nothing. No sex, no family, no neighborhood.
Nope.
No fucking hobbies. No drive to work.
Nope.
Fuck.
And, you know, their impression of it is like, we made this decision. So it's not, we didn't sacrifice it. Like, we decided this is the life we want to live.
But when he made this decision, it was 1965 or some shit? That's just
black and white TVs.
Oh my God, that's a crazy decision. That's crazy. To decide back then, like, I see what's coming, and I've had enough.
Yeah.
I've had enough. These daily newspapers, it's just too much information.
Right, exactly.
That's a crazy time to check out. So they don't know what the fuck's going on in the world? Did you quiz them on shit?
I didn't really quiz them. I mean, they every Sunday night, there's one TV in one back room, and they watch the news. So they get a sense of just, like, you know, kind of where we are, state of the union.
If we're at war.
Yeah.
If there's a nuclear meltdown.
Yeah.
1 hour?
Yeah, they watch about an hour on Sunday night.
One night a week, and that's how they tune in. Who do they
I was going
trust?
crazy. I was immediately, like, my head went to, like, I'm sure we're being attacked right now, and I'm stuck at the monastery.
Right,
like,
yeah.
I'm sure the airlines aren't flying, and I'm stuck here for another 30 days.
Right.
And, you know, my mind went to a place where I was thinking just the worst of everything. you know.
What news do they trust?
I think they trust it all.
But like, which channel do they go to?
Oh, they would just watch like, you know, the local ABC, the local network.
So whatever's local in
Yeah,
upstate New York. Oh, okay.
There weren't Netflix options.
Do they have internet?
I had no access to the internet. I think they have access.
Probably for their job.
Yeah, but I had no access
For
to
the
it.
dog training. Jesus Christ.
It
What
was it was wild.
But why is that so romantic to people? Because it is. It's very romantic, right? There's something about this idea of checking out. It's just, I had a buddy who did it. I mean, for all I know, he still does it. I lost touch with him 25 plus years ago. But he was a Taekwondo guy, and he started to meditate because he was always very nervous about sparring and very nervous about competition. So, excuse me, he was trying to figure out what was going on. So he said, let me just take some meditation classes. He took some meditation classes and really enjoyed it, and got really, really into it. And then one day decided to give up all the worldly possessions and all of the trappings of civilization and move into the monastery. And I remember we met him for lunch one day. He'd also become a vegetarian, so he only ate vegetables. And we were all just hanging around, and he seemed oddly at peace. And it was so confusing to me because at the time I was like probably 20, and I was just didn't know what the fuck is going on in the world. He was maybe 10 years older than me. And this guy had just decided, I've had enough. Which is weird to me, though. He made me nervous. Like, you know, like he made me nervous that like he was onto something. It made me nervous that he was wiser than me, that it highlighted how fucked up I am. And, you know, especially at 20, life is so chaotic.
Right.
You have no idea what the future holds for you, if it's going to be success or failure, if you're going to just slip on every fucking banana peel you run across. But he seemed to have it figured out. Sitting there eating vegetables, all calm and shit.
Where is he now?
I have no idea. I lost touch with him. You know, probably like 30 years ago. But
When I was 20, those guys freaked me out too.
yeah, they must have freaked you out just when you did this book. I mean,
I freaked them out.
really?
I was an alien. I mean, I came in there high energy, you know, rah rah, and like.
We the only guys ever done that?
Probably at this particular place. I think for an extended period of time like that. Yeah.
Wow. Why'd they let you do it?
Well, I'd written a book prior, Living with a Seal, and they knew I was coming up there to write a book, and I guess they liked the first book.
Well, I'm sure it'll be good for the dog business too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they read your book.
They read my book.
Were you allowed to read books while you were there?
I was allowed to. I brought. I'm not like a big reader, so I figured 2 books would carry me
For 15
days. But I read them like, you know, I read both in like the
2
first
days.
Yeah, like the first 2 days.
Yeah.
So then I was like,
Did you check whatever they have? Oh, look, Mary Poppins.
yeah,
Read this stupid shit.
yeah. I said I'm good just thinking.
Wow. So was there any point at like day 13 when you're like, I actually kind of like this?
Yes. I think around day 7, once I realized, like, you know, I got the excuses out of my head that I'm staying, I'm not leaving, I'm in this is what I'm doing, and I settled into it, I got tremendously energized because, like, at the monastery, you don't make any decisions. You eat when they tell you to eat. You eat what they tell you to eat. You go to service when the church bell rings, you go. I wore one outfit, I showered once. So all the decisions were taken away from you. But when all the decisions are taken away from you, it frees up so much energy. So I was getting like super clear, and I was like, I like this. This is like no one can get to me. I'm not getting bombarded. No one can schedule appointments with me. This isn't so bad.
Have you ever done the sensory deprivation tank?
Mm-mm.
There's the thing about the sensory deprivation, you know what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that's most interesting about it is that in the absence of input, your brain is freer and you can make decisions better and think about things better because there's no input coming in. You don't think about it, but as we're sitting here, just touching this table is input. You and I looking at each other across the lights, all this is input. And in that tank, there's no input. And in the absence of input, it frees up more resources for your brain. So in a sense, what these monks you're saying are doing by having everything on a schedule, you don't have to think about anything, and there's nothing coming in. There's no Twitter, Facebook, all that jazz. You have more resources.
Correct.
And you feel better.
I feel that's exactly right. And I experience that. You know, I think the average American makes like 35,000 to 50,000 decisions a day. And there's a real thing called decision fatigue.
Really?
Yeah. And when you eliminate all, like I remember when I came home and the day I got home, my wife is like, sweetie, I'm going to take the kids to, school and I'm going to take the blue car. I was like, cool, take the blue car. And she came back a minute later. She's like, you know what? I think I'm going to take the other car because I want to park and the blue car's too big. And I was like, all right, cool, take the other car. And then she came back in. She goes, you know what? I'm going to take the blue car. Because I'm like, Sarah, you're using so much energy already. It's 7:45 a.m. on what car to drive. And I realized like that happens all the time. It's like exhausting, man.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go on.
No, I'm just saying like when, I didn't have any of that. So it freed up all this energy. I was making like massive life lists of what I want to do. I became very aware of my relationship with time. I mean, when we think of relationships, we think of our relationships with our mom or our dad or our kids or this and that. But like no one thinks of a relationship with time. And I'm turning 50. The average American lives to be 78 years old. So if I'm average, I hope I'm not, but that means I got 28 years of life left. If you reverse engineer it, like I just climbed Mount Washington. There were no 70-year-olds climbing Mount Washington. The actual years that you have left to be active and do the shit that we want to do, they shrink significantly as a percentage as you get older. So once you get aware of your relationship with time, everything shifts. And I had a fundamental shift when I came home as it relates to my relationship with time and who I want to spend it with. And what I want to do. And I want to put more on my plate of the stuff that I love to do with the people I love to do it with. And I started getting like a lot of clarity around that when I wasn't getting bombarded with everything else. Like I don't spend any time alone. The only time I spend alone is if I go for a run. Everything else is I'm getting influenced by everybody else and everything else. So I'm losing my main superpower, my instinct, which I've survived. I got a 980 on my SAT, man. I survive on instinct and gut. And I was losing that because I was so distracted. So once I started to get that alone time, you don't have to go to a monastery to do it. You just got to, carving out a little bit of time for myself every day. I just started to think a lot clearer on like, how do I want to reverse engineer the rest of my life?
Wow. Do you think this is something you would do on a regular basis?
No, but it's something that I have. And I feel like, like I said, like going into the unknown, it gives you an edge. It gives you come out of it a little bit different than you go in. It doesn't have to be a monastery. It could be a race. It could be a business experience. It could be whatever.
Right. But just doing something different.
Doing it different because, so yeah, I feel like I don't think I would do it again, but I don't think I have to because I can tap into that when I need it.
Do you think that'll wear off though? Because a lot of times inspiration for people, it's fleeting.
The takeaways won't wear off. Like I'm already back on my phone. I'm back in modern day life. I'm all fucked up again. But the main things, like my relationship with time and certain things of, who I want to spend it with and what I want to do and continuing to build what I call my life resume, doing these things that build up not my business resume, but my life resume. That's things that I know I want to do more of. And that will never go away. So, there's things that came out of it that will last forever.
Like what kind of adjustments did you make when you came back?
Started saying no. I reversed engineered my life. So let me give you an example. My parents are 88. Okay, I have a good relationship with my parents. My parents are 88. They live in Florida. I see my parents. Let's say my parents live to be 92. I hope they live longer. But let's say they live 5 years.
Right.
I don't have 5 years left with my parents. I see my parents twice a year. That means I have 10 visits with my parents. So when I started to look at shit like that, I made significant changes. Like, okay, I'm going to get on a plane and see my parents. And when I'm in those moments, my feet are on the ground. That's where I am because I only have a limited amount of time with them. You understand?
Right.
It's like, it's not 5 years. People are like, oh, I got 5 more. No, you don't. How many times you see them, man? You see him 2 times a year. You got 10 visits. So I just started looking at stuff like that and became really aware when I'm in moments that are big moments to take it in and take note of it so it has an impact on me and I appreciate it.
Wow. Did you shift anything else in your life, like as far as like what you do with your time during the days?
I did. So, I started putting parameters around simple things like my phone. So like I was the guy at the movie theater, I'd be checking my, forgot it, bing, I'd like look under my shirt so the light doesn't light up and know what.
Well, I'm glad at least you did that. At
No,
least
but
you're courteous.
Yeah, that's true. But I put parameters, nothing I'm not keeping my phone in at nighttime and, seeing anything come in at 5 in the morning, nothing at the dinner table with my kids. And so like basic obvious things like that. But as far as my time, I made 2 really big changes. One change is, and I've kind of always been doing this, so I wouldn't necessarily say it was a change, but I take 3 hours a day for myself, religiously every day. Like I literally.
This is new just since the monastery.
It's kind of like it's unwavering since the monastery. It's kind of been in my life and out of my life, but I just made a pie chart of time. It's 24 hours in a day. We all have the same pie chart. Starts the same.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I sleep 7 hours. I mean, sometimes I'm out of balance if I'm doing something big, but right now 6 or 7 hours. I take 3 for myself, and it's cumulative. So like I'm gonna go for an hour run. I'm gonna sit in the sauna for 20 minutes. I'm gonna do fucking nothing. But when I'm in my time, I'm not mad that I'm not with my kids or my wife, or I'm not mad that I'm not at my office. Like that's my time. And when I'm with my kids, I'm not mad that I'm not at work or whatever, because I don't want to resent my wife or my boss or anybody for taking away the shit that I love to do. Like if they said, you can't run, you can't go in the sauna, I'd be really pissed off. I'd be pissed at my wife. I'd be pissed at everybody.
Right.
So I take 3 hours for myself. The average American works 40 hours a week. That's 8 hours a day. You still have 6 hours left in the day. Now, of course, you have to eat, you have to commute, you got family and this and that. But my point is, even take 24 hours is a long day. I learned that running. You can get a lot of shit done if you keep moving for 24 hours. Even if you take 3 hours for yourself, if you get rid of the stuff that doesn't move the needle in the buckets that are most important to you, you can get a lot done. So I take 3 hours for myself, and that's been and I'm not mad about it. I'm not like guilty about it at all. I feel like I'm way out of balance. And then the second thing actually didn't come from the monastery, but it was like kind of an offshoot of the monastery. I was mentioning to you that I climbed Mount Washington. Mount Washington's in the winter is one of the 10 most dangerous mountains I think to climb, certainly in the States. There's the highest death rate because the winds go up to about anywhere from, on any given day, 50 to 100 miles an hour, minus 35 degrees, no visibility. It's just
100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that like?
I didn't experience 100, but I experienced super high winds.
Like, what did you experience, 50?
I think more, 50, 60, yeah.
What is that like?
Well, I went twice. The first time I went to do it, I didn't make it to the summit because it was too dangerous. I actually timed out. Like, I didn't have enough time to get back to make it.
In altitude?
No, just in
the amount of darkness? Or?
Yeah, darkness. It would have just gotten too tough to get back down.
Right.
I was with 5 friends, no tour guide. Did everything wrong.
Right.
And I actually came home after that attempt, which was a year ago, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I posted it on Facebook, so everybody was blasted. Did you make it? Mount Washington is only about 4 or 5 miles to the top, 4.6 miles. It's just the elements and the weather that make it so hard. And I said to my wife, I failed. I didn't make it. I feel like an ass. I'm so disappointed. I want to go back. And she said, well, get a tour guide, break in your boots, properly train for this, and go back next winter and check it off your list. And I was like, next winter? I'm going back on Saturday. Next winter? Like, who knows if I'm going to be healthy enough next winter?
Right.
So I went back next winter, that Saturday with the same guys, and we did it. And then recently this year, I took my son, who's 8, not to the top, but we're going to go camp out. I want you to experience this. Got him a minus 40 sleeping bag and all this stuff. And we went out there with my friend who's a police officer in Suffolk County. He brought his daughter. And we're sitting out there, sleeping outside and fucking freezing. fucking freezing. And I'm all bundled up. And I turn to him and I'm like, Kevin, how often do you do shit like this? You know, he's a police officer. He's the happiest guy. He's rock star shape. And he goes, I call it the Kevin rule. He goes, every year, I go on one trip a year with my college roommates. I've been doing it since I'm 21. And then once every 2 months, I take a weekend and I do something. I go camping, I'll run a marathon, I'll go hiking, I'll go to whatever with my family or friends. And I said to myself, if I can't, going back to your question about time, if I can't take a weekend every 8 weeks, once every 2 months, if I can't carve out a day or two to take some kind of adventure to put on my life resume or to collect a moment for me, then my life is out of balance. And I call it the Kevin rule. And I said, if I live 30 more years, if I live to 80, and I do that, you know, for 30 years, that's 150 or 100, basically 150 more fucking amazing memories that I'm going to create. And that became another one of these time-related, monastery-related urgency rules. So I just, again, it just became a real big clarity around like, man, I want to live with urgency. And I want to do as much shit as I can and put as much on my plate of the stuff I love to do with the people I love in my life and have it on my resume. And that's how I want to live my life forward.
That's very inspiring. So when you decided to cut out or carve out 3 hours a day for yourself, what was the first shit that you eliminated?
Literally just saying no to the requests for my time.
Like what kind of shit?
Hey, yeah, Jess, do you think you can meet me for lunch? I want to talk to you about a business idea that I have in the beverage space. I know that you had your coconut water. I want to talk to you about that. No. I'm going for a run.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't want any money. I don't want any money. I just want to talk to you for 15 minutes. A friend of mine. No. You think on Friday night you can come down for 15 and see this? No. Because it's cumulative.
Right.
It's not one. I mean, listen, I made
it's not one person ever.
No.
No. It's going to be one person every day or so with some new request.
So that was the first shift. And the second thing is and I put myself first. You know, and a lot of times I don't, but in certain times I do. And I realized that this is kind of might be a little bit more specific, but I realized I love football. I watch a lot of football, man. I realized that I was watching 2 games, college game on Saturday, fantasy football Sunday, I'm locked in, Sunday night game, Monday night, Thursday night. And I realized that at this point, if I lived to be 85, 80, whatever, that would be 36,000 hours of football. 36,000 hours of football that I'd be watching. Now throw in some of the fights, throw in some of the other stuff. It's like I just took the plug out. And I freed up these 36,000 hours. My wife said, what do you mean you're going to go live in the monastery? I'm like, it's 15 days, sweetie. I just freed up 36,000 hours. You get the benefit of that. I'm going for 15 days. So wow. I freed up the time by eliminating stuff that like fucking didn't move the needle.
So you stopped watching football? Totally. I
still watch it, but I became very aware of it. And I still watch it, but I check in. I'm not sitting around on Sunday. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it wasn't moving the needle in my family, my finances, or my wellness.
But what about recreation time? Like, does recreation time, is that valuable? Like enjoying things, like sitting back and watching a good movie, enjoying it?
Absolutely. And I do. I do. But I'm not,
I'm asking for myself as much as I'm asking for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, you got to be happy and do the things you like to do. But, again, for me, I look at it very simply. I got 3 or 4 buckets. I got my family, my wellness, my finances, and causes that are important to me. And, if it's not moving the needle in those 4 buckets, it's really just a distraction, honestly. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to go to a movie. That's family. It's part of my wellness. Mm-hmm. Relaxing is part of my wellness. You want to go, but, those are kind of, everything else kind of gets a no. Like going to lunch to look at someone else's idea in a category I don't really know much about because they want to maybe get to me or they want my wife or no.
Just no.
No.
Should make a t-shirt.
I've said, yeah, listen.
I get it.
when I was starting out as an entrepreneur, when I was 20 years old, you know, and I was cleaning kiddie pools and in the music business, I was doing all this stuff. I'd laugh at a lot of jokes that weren't funny.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To get deals, to get stuff, I'd laugh, and I'm sick of laughing at jokes that aren't funny.
That's actually very funny. Like, you saying that is very funny. It's a smart thing to do. But in the beginning, it's very hard, right? Because you're trying to get momentum. You're trying to establish relationships. You want people to like you. You don't want to dead face a stupid joke.
Exactly.
And then have people go, fuck that Jesse guy. That guy's a dick.
I'm not doing anything with him.
Yeah.
So you laugh.
Yeah. So do you organize your time, like, very specifically now? And did you do that in the past?
I do now. I didn't in the past because, you know, in the past I'm a do anything. I say yes to action things without really thinking them through very often.
Right.
Now what I do is I have a 3-year-old system. I have 2 notebooks. I'm kind of old school. I don't really operate well keeping stuff in phones. I just take everything that comes into my head and I dump it out of my head to free up space in my head. So I have one journal that has everything I need to do. And I just do that to get it out of my head. So I don't have to remember that I have to get my son's friend's 8-year-old birthday present for Saturday. I just write it down. Doesn't mean it goes away, but it's out of my head.
Right.
And then I have my daily, from that list, I pick the most important things that have to get done. And then the night before, I write them down, or the beginning of the week. I just knock them out, man.
And how long ago was it that you went to this monastery and did this 15 days?
A year ago.
1 year ago. And has this enthusiasm or this feeling waned at all?
No.
Wow. That's really interesting. Do you conveyed that in the book?
I do. I mean, I feel like I've been living my life like this even before the monastery. It just reinforced a lot of things. I think combined with the fact that for some reason, you know, I'm turning 50. It's fucking with me in a way that I didn't think it would. And I don't know how old are you?
50.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's had the same impact on you, but, like, you know, there's not a day that goes by where I don't say to myself, man, in 30 years, you're turning 80. Like, you want to live with urgency.
Yeah.
And, you know, all those, my enemy is the clock. I feel like my enemy is the clock. And there's a lot of stuff I want to do in my life, and my enemy is the clock.
Do you feel like you live in the moment enough?
Absolutely.
You do?
I do.
Because that would be the worry, right? Like, if you're constantly worrying about, damn, 20 years I'm going to be 70, 30 years I'm going to be 80. If you keep doing that, like, there are people that look ahead too much and don't just... I've talked to people that are 20. Like, fuck, I can't believe I'm 20. I'm like, listen, motherfucker, you just turned 20, dude. Relax. You know, like, just 20. Right. You're a baby. Nah, man, I'm going to be fucking 30 in 10 years. Like, you shut the fuck up. You're 20 now.
I use it as a motivator. And I remember when I was starting out, I was 21 years old. This is a crazy story. I just got dropped from a record label. I was signed to a record label called Delicious Vinyl.
What did you do?
I had a rap record on Delicious.
You were a rapper?
I was a rapper. Signed to Delicious with Tone Loc and Young MC.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
So my album doesn't get picked. I don't get picked up for a second album, and I moved to New York City. I have 2 things on my resume: kiddie pool attendant, because I was a kiddie pool attendant, and rapper. So I'm staying on my friend's couch, living on his couch with his roommate, and he tells me on Monday, I got to get out of the apartment. So instead of going to look for a new apartment over the weekend, I go to my friend's bachelor party on the Jersey Shore. I'm at the bachelor party, I'm getting a drink at the bar, and I see this girl. I start chatting with her. She asked me where I live. I told her, actually, as of Monday, I have nowhere to go. She takes out a napkin. She writes her address on the napkin. I'm 21 years old. And she says, if it's an emergency on Monday and you're stuck, you can come live with me. Monday comes. I get kicked out of my friend's apartment. I have nowhere to go. I'm like, this is an emergency. I take out the napkin, and I live with this girl and her roommate for 6 months.
Whoa.
It turns out that her father is a big entrepreneur, business. He owns a piece of the Yankees, just like monster mogul. I write this song for the New York Knicks called Go New York Go, and it becomes a big success. You remember that song?
No.
I don't know. Okay, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm not a sports fan.
That's fine. It becomes a big hit. And I just realized that there's an opportunity to write theme songs for all these professional sports teams, but I don't have a penny to go in the studio to do the demos to shop them to the teams. So I need money. So I go to this music guy and he says, I'll give you $10,000 to go and do these songs for 10% of everything you make for the rest of your life. He wants to buy me like a stock.
For the rest of your life?
I'm 21. He's
for
like,
the rest of your life, everything you do.
I will invest in you.
You own an airplane business. He owns 10%.
Yes.
Forever.
Yes.
You have to kill him then.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to kill that guy.
But I need the 10 grand. So I say, I'll take it. So before I take it, I go to this girl's father for advice, this business mogul that I'm living with. And I sit down, I go to this guy's apartment. Again, I'm 21. He's got, in his apartment, he's got a swimming pool, artwork, like fancy
swimming pool.
He's macked out, man. It's like I've never seen anything like this.
Who does a swimming in Manhattan?
In Manhattan. I'm just setting the stage of this
shit.
conversation. And I go in and I tell him the story about
the 10%.
The 10 grand. And he says to me, I would trade, this is exactly what he said to me, I will trade everything that I have
for you to get out of my daughter's life.
Yeah, exactly. I'll trade everything I have for the one thing that you have. And I'm like, man, I'm fucking broke. What are you talking, me? I go, what's that? And he said, youth. Because he had already gone through the journey. Even though he had everything, he already had gone through the process. He wasn't that 20-year-old that you're talking about, that whatever. He had gone through it. He had it all. He missed the process, the journey of being you coming up at 20 and not know, like, here you are, but it was those were the years, man.
Right.
The first fight, the first this, like that's what makes you like, so, and that stuck with me, man. At 21 years old, it stuck with me, and realized that, like, man, I got to enjoy the process, and it's really never rubbed off on me, from me.
Wow. Well, why didn't that guy, how old was this guy at the time? The old rich dude?
He was, let's see, he must have been in his 60s.
Why didn't he just do shit? Do a bunch of shit.
He did.
Instead of lounging around his fucking swimming pool
He
in his
did,
house.
he did. He had an amazing...
Wishing he was 20.
He had an amazing life. He had an amazing life.
So what did you wind up doing?
He said, the second part of that conversation, he said, will you make this work on your own? I said, I think I can. He said, I didn't ask you if you can. He said, he said, will you make it work? I said, I will. He said, then go tell the guy to fuck off and make it, and he goes, and go make it work. And I did.
So how'd you get it funded then?
I somehow I went to the Dallas Mavericks after the Knicks and told them that I convinced them to give me a $2,500. The Knicks paid me, it was just a crazy part of my life, but they gave me $2,500 to do the demo. And then they bought the song for like $20,000, and that funded the rest of the business that I ultimately sold to a public company.
Wow, that's crazy. And you almost gave away 10% of your whole life. That guy who wanted 10% is a piece of shit. What a motherfucker. Like, that's a sneak. Like, oh, no, it's just business. Just business.
And I had no one to go to.
But I know, he's taking advantage of a 21-year-old kid who's just got some dreams and needs some cash, and 10 grand to him is probably nothing.
I called my father. My father owned the plumbing supply house in Mineola, Long Island, and during this time in my thing. And my father said, I mean, I love him to death, but he's like, do what you think is best. He just didn't, I didn't know when to turn to. I had no one to turn to.
Yeah, don't give up 10% of your life ever.
Right.
That's just crazy that someone would ask for that. But you hear things like, I mean, this is similar to what they do in the music business. Like how the music business treats artists. They essentially sign you to these contracts and then take a piece of everything. They take a piece of if you do a movie. They take a piece of your live performances, your merchandise sales, everything. They just say, look, we'll help you out a little bit, but, we want you.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, at least you're in a contract, though. But there's some creepy contracts that they used to do in the old days of Hollywood that were similar to that, right? They just take a piece of you forever.
Yeah. When I signed my music deal, I didn't care. I was like, you can take whatever you want, man. Get me on MTV.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Because
take
you're
it
young.
all.
Well, that's the whole idea. The reason why these exploitation contracts work is because in the beginning you're just so desperate, and what you have is what they don't have. You have talent, right? What you have is you're creative, you're young and full of energy, and you've got something exciting that people want to look at. And so what they do is they go, oh, look, we got a way through the door, but we want 75% of the profits. We want a little bit of this, and you don't get any money back until we recoup our money that we spent on executives and parking and car leases, and they calculate all that shit, how much the fucking building costs, how much the electricity, all that stuff they you've seen those, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
those contracts, they're fucking
I've
scary.
signed them. I've signed, my own way.
Yeah,
but it's part of the process, and no leverage.
That's the thing. They've got the leverage. But now they don't have the leverage, but they still figure out a way to pull it off. It's really weird because who the fuck is buying albums now? No one.
Right.
But yet these record companies are still figuring out how to cling on to you like a lamprey and suck blood out. They're still staying alive, and their fat fingers driving their fat Mercedes-Benz. They know how to do it. They just figure out a way to grab people that are just getting popping. And just sign it, and then figured out a way to get in with these fucking streaming companies. Have you paid attention to any of that shit?
A little bit, yeah.
Oof. That's the darkest. It's even darker than the music distribution.
Yeah.
Because the artists get like no money.
0.00001. Yeah.
Steven Tyler was talking about it with me. It's just, he was explaining it, and it's the company's actually, or the organization's actually called MMA. What did it stand for? Musicians for some sort of an act where they're trying to stop these streaming companies from ripping off these artists.
Music Modernization Act.
Yeah, it's dark.
Yeah,
but it's along the same lines. It's like people figuring out a way to just take something from somebody because you need it. You're broke. You're desperate. You signed a contract. Oh, you got to buy a contract. And as soon as and then music that was invented, like how they put Led Zeppelin on a streaming service. There was no streaming when this should be a whole new contract, right? I don't know.
It's true with audiobooks too. Even books now and all these old publications, they never envisioned that there would be, e-books and audiobooks and all these different distribution areas.
I would imagine that audiobooks probably mirror the sales of regular books now. I know at least in my circle, I know so many people who just use audiobooks, and they hardly ever read. And what they've essentially done is taken that commuter time that was just dead air and filled it up with books.
I can't when I did the Seal book, I couldn't believe how many people hit me about the audio, because I did my own audiobook, and I just couldn't. I didn't even.
What year was that?
Came out 2 years ago. And it just never dawned on me that people even listen to audiobooks.
Right.
When it made me angry that I did the read so quickly. I was like, I should have invested a little bit more time and gotten a coach or something.
Right.
I just read it.
What percentage of your books were audio versus paper?
It's a good question. I'm gonna guess about 30%.
30%
40, maybe 40%.
So it's closing in on 50-50. Yeah.
Because people can now speed it up a little bit so they can get through it quicker.
Yeah,
they can do
so
it when
weird.
People
do that with podcasts.
Right.
So the listeners are right now. They're listening to us right now like we're on speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you're done with this book, and you get back from this monk thing, and you realize that this has made like some sort of a fundamental shift in the way you live your life, and you put this book out, is there a real sense that people who read this book are going to get that from you? And are you aware that you're probably going to change the way a lot of people live their lives?
I hope so. I don't know if they'll change their lives, but I hope that it helps them look through things through a different lens.
Yeah.
And, make their own decisions. And one of the takeaways from the book isn't so much specific around the monastery. It's around this notion of building your life resume, and just stepping into the unknown. Because to me, that's where I learned the best. I could get a traditional coach or go to seminars or experts, but I just don't learn. I learn by going into the unknown. And I hope it just motivates people to have a little bit more urgency and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to a monastery.
Right.
But, you know, there's an old Japanese ritual, you might be familiar with it, I don't know, called the misogi. And the thought around the misogi is, it was introduced to me by Kyle Korver, who played at the Hawks, for the Atlanta Hawks. And the notion around the misogi is, you do something so hard one time a year that it has an impact the other 364 days of the year on you. That you go so far beyond. You know, for me, that was my 100-mile run. I mean, I can look back since 2008. I've had moments like that every year. But, and I believe in that. I believe in that. And I don't know why I just brought that up, but it's true. And so it's just kind of one of the themes around this urgency and you know, creating memories, etc.
Yeah, I think there's things like that sort of highlight that urgency. That if you just live your life like at the same steady, static pace, maybe sometimes you don't feel it as much. Like I'm sure after you did your 100-mile run, like when it was over, it probably felt so good to relax.
Oh, well, first of all, for me, the pressure around completing the run. When I did the run, I raised millions of dollars for charity. And everyone in my world knew I was doing it. I gave myself 90 days to train for it.
What's normal?
I would say, like, for the people in the shape that I was in going into it, probably a year, 8 months, 6 months. I mean,
whoa.
I mean, I gave myself 90 days. I started in August, and the race was 90 days later. And everyone in my world was donating or involved or knew about it. So if I didn't finish it, so much can go wrong in a 100-mile run. You know, like if something goes wrong in a marathon at mile 19, you got it out. You got 7 more miles left. Right. You know, something goes wrong at mile 19, you have 81 miles left. You can't most people can't gut that out. I don't think I could. I felt so relieved when it was done because I was just like, man, I did it. And no one can take it away from me.
What was the longest you had ran before that?
I ran 250s.
250s.
250 milers. I mean, I never did miles. I did time. So I did two about 10-hour runs twice.
And 50 miles in those 10 hours?
Probably around there.
Somewhere around there. So, but you knew that you were at the halfway mark roughly, and you could push through the rest.
I knew that if I got to if I could get to 50 miles in 10 hours, I could basically, even injured, walk the rest in the allocated time.
Now, after that was over, and after you did do that 100 miles, how much of a shift did that make in the way you thought about time and effort?
Totally changed my life. Completely talking about this misogi. It completely changed my life. That was in 2006, I think, that I did the run. And it's completely changed my life. Because when I started running, my goal was to run 2 miles. If I could run 2 miles in 18 minutes, 9-minute pace, I considered myself a runner. And I worked towards that goal. Like out of college, I was like, just got out of college. I'm like, I'm gonna try to run 2 miles. You know, like it took me a little to get there in 9-minute pace. You know, and fast forward, I ran this. Nothing in my body changed. This is the same legs God gave me, same lugs God gave me. I'm not very strong. Nothing's changed. But I took that 2-mile body and ran 100 miles. And I bet almost a lot of people that are listening to this could run 2 miles and with a gun to their head. They could run 2 miles if they had to. And the only thing that changed was the way I perceived what I thought I could do in this run. And I realized after the race that, holy shit, I did 50x what my initial goal was. Like I was under-indexing 50x in this category of my life. What are the areas of my life, Jesse? What other areas of your life, man, are you under-indexing in? Like, okay, if your sales quota at Marquis Jet, my company, was 20 jet cards, is that because I knew I could get it and it was comfortable? Or should I be like, man, put me on the board for 40 fellas this month. Let me see what the fuck I can do.
Right.
I was living in this like comfort. I was going through life like this. Routine. And routines are great, but routines can also be a rut. You can't get better in a routine. And if you get when you're in a routine, time goes fast. When you're out of your routine, time goes slow. So I was so comfortable in my routine. I was like, man, fuck it. I don't want to go through life like this. I want to go through life like this, you know? And I was
The people who are listening, you're going up.
I'm going up.
Most people are listening.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I'm just going from.
People do this all the time.
I'm just locked. I don't even know where people are listening.
Yeah.
I'm locked into you.
Right.
I was going flat. You know, I was just doing the same shit. And
you want a nice 45-degree upward angle.
Yeah. So this run showed me, man, I was under indexing so much what I thought I was capable of, and it made me think like, what else am I capable of?
What about recovery? Like, what was it like when you were done?
Well, at mile 94, I realized I had 6 toenails in my shoe. So that was an uncomfortable feeling. And when I
felt them rattling
around, and when I took my shoes off, my feet were so fucked up.
Is it because your feet swell while you're running? And if you have like a size 10, you're supposed to swap out to a size 11 later? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I swapped. I wanted to size up, but I had blisters. I had bad blisters. My blisters were really bad. And
were they bad before you ran, or did you get them?
I got them as I was going, and they looked like it literally looked like I had swallowed red grapes, and they went to the bottom of each of my toe. I mean, it was just. So I was in a wheelchair for 4 days after the race.
4 days,
just because of the bottom, the blisters, and you know. But so for me, just like a regular guy, it was a very powerful moment for me, you know, and it was worth it. It was all well worth it. Once I was done and I realized like I'm okay. I'm not in shock. I'm not dehydrated. I'm just in super pain. That was a great moment. And I have a regret from that race, like one of the biggest regrets in my life. Like, I don't like the way I finished the race. I ran 99 miles. The last mile took me 48 minutes, and literally had to like grab my brother's shoulders, and like if I could do it all over, I wanted to really finish that like a champion, you know? And I was just very disappointed. I'm very happy about it. But I also, one of my biggest regrets from the race is just that, you know, I got to that moment and I just didn't finish it the way I wanted to finish it.
What was wrong?
Oh, man, my fucking joints, like my hips and my knees were just like swollen, just so much pain. It was just so, at 75, I just kind of like was running, and then all of a sudden I was on the ground because like I just buckled. Because it was my joints, not my muscles. Just like my, you know, like I said, if you roll your thumb around for 24 hours, your thumb's gonna fall off.
Right.
You know, it's just that motion and pounding, and I didn't know what I was wearing. Cotton. I was like, I did everything wrong, you know, but I did it.
And when you did get done with that in the wheelchair for 4 days, how long did it take before your body felt normal, like your joints normalized, your hips and your knees and?
Took about a little over 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're just hobbling around for 2 weeks thinking about it.
I'm still impacted by it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
I had like a huge cyst, like from all the stress on my foot. That
You're making a ham sized. When you say
like fucking,
you're holding your hands.
Yeah, like you have a skull
like a
on your desk. Like
how big was it?
Like big enough I couldn't wear shoes.
What?
I had to wear sneakers that it was. I'll show you a picture.
Did you get it removed?
I got it drained twice, and then I went to like a almost fruitarian diet, and it went away.
Fruitarian, just all fruit. Why did that do it?
I don't know. Yeah.
Did you try fruits with vegetables or fruits with anything else?
So I for 27 years I've only had fruit till 12 o'clock noon. That's all I eat in the morning. But I extended that out further, and it went away on its own.
From fruit? I
don't know if that's the reason.
Right.
Maybe it just went away.
Right.
But I made some significant changes in my diet. Yeah.
So, but what led you to be the fruitarian idea?
I read a book called Fit for Life when I was 20, right before my first marathon. I was 21 or 22 years old, like looking for an edge. Mm-hmm. And in the book, it challenges the reader to try to eat. One of the principles of the book is to only eat fruit until noon. We can talk about it, but it challenges the reader to try it for 10 days, and then day 11, go back to your regular breakfast and see how you feel. So I did. Like, I can invest 10 days to try this. And on day 11, I went back to oatmeal and toast or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, man, I felt so sluggish
Right.
and like bloated. And I was like, I never went back. And that's unwavering. I'm unwavering on that. I've run marathon, never changes. Fruit till noon. And so that's why.
Now, what do these people eat in the monastery?
So they have a very light breakfast that suited me well. They have fruit in the morning. And then their lunch, they call it dinner. That's their big meal. So the afternoon meal is like dinner. And then at night, it was super light, like soup and salad or whatever. So it's really like almost one meal a day.
Are they vegetarian?
Some were, but others weren't.
That's interesting.
Not all of them were, which was interesting.
Did you expect them to be?
I did. I lost a lot of weight there. I lost like 17 pounds, 15,
Really?
17 pounds.
In 2
yeah.
weeks?
Yeah.
Why so? What do you think? It's lack of sugar?
Yeah. No carbs, lack of
Right.
sugar, one
So they
meal
don't
a
eat
day.
They don't eat any bread or?
They did. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to put a little asterisk next to my thing. I went in there saying to myself, I wanted to come back clean.
Mm-hmm.
So I really try not to have any grains. And I did have some grains, but not a lot. And I walked a lot. I walked 120 miles over the time I was there, up and down their driveway. And so I lost a lot of weight. I gained it all back, but at the time, yeah.
Now, these people that live this life, do they have something they're working towards? Do they have an idea that they're working towards? I mean, when you press them on it and ask them, like, why are you here? Do you ever plan on leaving? Do you ever see yourself going somewhere else?
It's a really good question. I asked them all those questions. So, no, they felt like that was their calling.
Their calling.
They were doing what they were supposed to be doing. And that they were committed to that lifestyle. So, no, they weren't. There was no thought of going back. There have been monks that have left the monastery. Just wasn't the right lifestyle for them. But the monks that were there when I was there, 50 years, they were committed and they're not going anywhere.
When you say that's what's confusing to me. Like, I understand that they're enjoying it, and I understand that they like that life, but that it's a calling, like the calling to do nothing, or just think. Maybe it's just
sacrifice, serve God, live a life of purity. This is not
right. I understand.
I couldn't do it, but
right.
I think that's kind of the mindset around it, and step away from the regular life that they were living. What's interesting is that they weren't born into the monastery.
Right.
A lot of these guys made this decision in their 20s, 30s, so
what were their jobs before they did it?
All over the board, literally. One guy, one of the monks was a lifeguard as a teenager.
Wow.
Just all over the board. So, but regular jobs, just always felt connected to God and connected to this higher living a life, just, under these terms.
Well, what's fascinating to me is that you're saying that they're so happy, because if you get how many people were in this monastery?
8.
And they're all male?
Yes.
8 men. If you get 8 random men in their, what's the youngest age of the guys over there?
35.
35 up to 70ish. You get 8 random 35 to 70s and ask how many of them are happy, actually truly happy. Maybe 2, right? How many people do you think are happy?
Well, they just did a study. There's a famous Harris study on happiness in this country. I think 67% of people are unhappy.
That is fucked.
Here I did this, Joe. This is a good test. Maybe you'll want to do this. I did this when I was speaking at an event for 500 Wall Street people recently, and it was fascinating. I'll take you through it. You can tell me if you're comfortable with it. But if you take all the areas of your life and put them in a blender, okay? So take where you live, your relationships, your finances, your health, everything. Put it in one fucking big blender and blend it up. And on a scale of 1 to 10, with a 10 being the Dalai Lama of happiness, and a 1 being a guy that's at a 0 being someone that's at rock bottom, what's your happiness number?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm pretty fucking happy.
Well,
I don't know. I wouldn't do it that way. I definitely wouldn't give it a number.
Okay.
Because I feel like that you're making something. You're turning like a constant state of thinking and expression and consideration, you're turning it into a number. And I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea because I think it's a management issue. I think a lot of what happiness is a management issue, and decisions that you're making right now, like you could be in a shit state of mind right now, but you could make some decisions to adjust that, and over the next couple hours, you'll get to a much better place. And these constant management decisions, they waver in and out of your life on a daily basis. Like this idea that you could have a good mindset, and then all of a sudden you'll be happy. That's horseshit. Like it's like the tide. It comes in and it comes out. And there's going to be days where you're just not feeling so good physically, and that's going to affect the way your happiness level is. It's never static. It's never exactly the same.
True. But if you looked at it overall at 30,000 feet and you had to give yourself a grade, we
happy as fuck is what I would say.
Okay,
I'm
so
pretty happy.
Okay, so I'll take that. I'll take that. Most people in that room,
yeah,
raise their. I said, if anyone is 7 and for anyone that listening that wants to do it, raise your hand if you're 7 or below. I don't want to put anyone on the spot. And majority of the room stood up.
Right.
Being a 7 and thinking like 7's a pretty happy number. But a 7, if my son comes home with a 70 on a test, it's a C minus.
Right.
And all I'm saying is, what's interesting about the test though, if you do actually go through the process, for those that like go through and get a number in their head or whatever, or do want to give themselves a grade,
right?
Your brain automatically goes to a 10 and then subtracts the 2 or 3 things pop in that bring your happiness down. It's a great way to identify what's making you unhappy. And that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like you started at 10, you're like, oh, fuck, my relationship or this or that. Usually it triggers an automatic, like, this is what's fucked up in my life response.
Right.
And it helps you identify. But it's interesting. We have benchmarks in so many things in our life. You have an IQ test. You have tax brackets to measure your wealth or financial statements. You have IQ tests, like I said. You can get on a scale to measure your weight. But you're right. Happiness is one of those things. It's like, how do you benchmark it? You know what I mean? It kind of fluctuates, and
it's like hunger. I mean, it's something that goes in and out. It's always there.
But happy as fuck is a good answer.
Yeah, but this is something I've cultivated for a long time and avoided things that make me unhappy and figured out what those things are and been very rigid about eliminating them from my life. And one of the big ones is eliminating interactions with people that are negative. That is gigantic. And because I've realized that I'm not really as independent as I used to like to think I was. I used to like to think that my thought process was independent and that I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. That's nonsense. People say that because they absolutely care what people think and it bothers them. So they say, I don't give a fuck. But that I don't give a fuck stuff is almost entirely nonsense. You do care. And you care in both ways. You care if people are critical of you, care if people are positive of you, but you also care if people are living positive lives and they're motivating you. That's a big one. People are fuel, and other people, it's one of the reasons why I like talking to people, one of the reasons why I like to do podcasts, because I get a lot out of, like just talking to you about your time in the monastery or your push to get to that 100 miles. Like you get energy out of people like that, and you think about this energy and you think about this inspiration when you're doing other things. And it also sets in your mind that when you meet these exceptional people that move you, like what are the characters, what are the qualities that they have, what are the characteristics that they possess, and those things become significant and important to you. Whereas if you live around a bunch of people that are complaining and bitching about everything and they see the negative in everything and they're always whining, those people are the opposite of that. They're the opposite of inspiration, and they're mud. You're just like, what? It's like you're up to your ankles in mud. You try to trudge through life. It's difficult. You're not light. It's not pushing you. There's not a wind at your back. The wind's in your face, and it's rough, and over time, I've learned that these people, you're not going to fix them. I used to want to fix them when I was young. I used to want to go, hey man, I see what you're doing. Like, dude, don't do that anymore. Listen, just do this and stop doing that and start doing this. And if you just work towards this, you could be successful. And then a week later, the guy's doing the same shit. You're like, okay, right. I'm wasting a significant amount of my energy on someone who doesn't want to waste any of their energy on themselves. And so managing the community and the tribe that you're in, making sure that you're a good member of that tribe, that you're doing your part, and there's a lot of cynicism in these days about inspiration and about motivation, because there's a lot of fake shit. You can go on Instagram and you see a million of these inspirational quote pages, and they're run by people that are probably depressed. You see a lot of people that are, talking about how to get ahead in life, but they're not really doing anything themselves. So there's a lot of cynicism involved in that. But there's also sincerity in it, and you can get, if you just look at it with a pure heart and a pure mind, you can get a lot of energy out of that. And when you're around happy, inspirational people that are successful, it makes you feel better and you get inspired. And if you act on that inspiration, your life will be more fulfilled. And it's not just inspirational in terms of financial success, but in terms of doing difficult things, whether it's running 100 miles. It doesn't pay you a goddamn thing other than the wealth of the knowledge that you can push yourself to such an extreme. Or anything else, whether it's someone who becomes really good at playing chess, or someone who's really good at martial arts, or whatever it is. There's a great feeling in these overcoming these difficult things, because life is never this just constant state of I'm at a 9 all day, and when I'm with my wife, I hit 10. Yay! And I stay like that. That's not real. What's real is like you saying that you went to this monastery and felt all this angst about meditating and being alone and not having your phone and not having the input, but then when it comes out of it, then you have this reward. So you push through this, and you had these uncomfortable feelings, and you came out of those uncomfortable feelings with this newfound appreciation for time and this respect for your own existence in your own space and carving out 3 hours for yourself a day. That's where it all comes from. It all comes from life lessons, and the lessons are learned through struggle. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that think somehow or another you're going to get to some place where you're living in silk sheets and you're getting your toes done while someone's dropping grapes into your mouth. I don't want that. I've never wanted that. That guy's not going to be happy. He's going to be bored. An hour into the grapes, you're going to get those fucking grapes away from me. Stop painting my toes. What am I doing in this bed? I got to do something. I'm not stimulated. The human organism, the animal that we are, needs constant stimulation because it evolved trying to find food and escape enemies, and find shelter, escape nature, escape the elements, try to survive. And this is the great joy that you have in taking care of your children, that you can protect your children from the elements and the enemies and feed them. And it's also the great sadness that you see in losers. When I see a loser, I see some guy who's 43 years old, lives in his parents' basement, and he fucking hates the world. I'm like, that was a baby. Man, this is a baby that somebody just gave shitty nutrients to, whether it's nutrients in the forms of food or in the form of thoughts and ideas and examples. And this kid developed these horrible, self-defeating patterns of behavior that have led them to this point where they're this middle-aged person with no future and no idea of how to get out of this rut, and probably never will escape it, and might just wind up sucking on a gun. This is the world that we live in today. And I think part of that world is because we have been fed this line of horseshit that you're supposed to seek comfort. And I don't think you are. I think you're supposed to seek lessons, and you're supposed to seek difficult tasks and accomplishments. And through those things, and through doing things that are hard to do, even if it's just a fucking 90-minute hot yoga class. I do a 90-minute yoga class, man. Those last 20 minutes, I do not want to be there, man. And I definitely don't want to give 100%. And I can cheat. I could kind of half-ass it. But if I don't, and I get through it, when that time is up and the lady says namaste and everybody gets up, I'm like, fuck, man, I made it. I lost 15 pounds. My fucking yoga mat is drenched to the point where I could literally wring it out and fill a jug up with water. But through that struggle, I will now have a better day, and I better fucking do it again tomorrow or do something else, because if I just think, well, tomorrow I'm just going to coast and eat Twinkies and watch TV. Oh, hello, sadness, my old friend. Hello, depression. Because when you're not doing anything, you feel like shit. And that's just a part of being a human being. And we can pretend that we're something other than what we really are. And we can pretend, nah, me, man, I'm just cool, just chilling, doing nothing. Bullshit. You're a fucking human. You're a human being. You evolved from the fucking hundreds of thousands of years of hunters and gatherers and people that were struggling. Those human reward systems are carved deeply into your DNA. And if you don't respect that, if you don't respect the mechanism of happiness and fulfillment and what you really need to do in order to feel satisfied in life, camaraderie, love, family, friendship, struggle, testing yourself, learning, all those things are imperative. They're all a giant part of being a person.
I love it. That was amazing. And I'm thinking in my head, am I checking those boxes as you're talking? And am I living my life like that, you know? And yeah, I agree with you.
Sounds like you are.
I am. Yeah, no, I feel like
we all waver, right? We all
yeah.
have days in and days out.
Absolutely.
But to be reinforced.
Yep. And I feel like, you know, as I'm listening to you talk about that, I'm literally going through like the last 10 years of my life, you know, and when I lived with David, when I went on the monastery, all these things, they're all about getting an edge and doing what you know, and I think it's like part of being human. And that stuff makes me feel the most alive too. You know, like that just makes me feel alive. Yeah.
You know, and also like little improvements over things. That's why doing difficult things is good, whether it's running. So like if you're running and you could run 2 miles and then one day you get it up to 3. It's like, fuck, I remember when I struggled with 2. Now I can do 4. Little improvements. You know, and you really see that in yoga class, and in particular for me because I'm not good at it. You know, so when I do a yoga class and I can hold a pose until you know, like you're holding these poses for a minute. And if you could stand on one foot, grabbing your other foot and lifting it above your head and keep your arm out straight and your balance and your foot's on fire and your core is engaged. But if you can get to the point where they say stop, you feel like, wow, I didn't used to be able to do that. I used to be able to hold it for 10 seconds and then I would fall down. And then I'd have to start all over again, start from scratch. There's little improvements where you feel yourself getting a little better at something, whether it's jujitsu or anything else. Just little improvements, I think, are what life is all about. And I think also they're a tool to feed the mind, because I really believe the mind needs these little lessons. The mind needs these little tasks. And if your brain doesn't get that, I think it atrophies and it gets depressed. And it's like I think that's half of what a lot of people's sadness is this lack of stimulation and reward, lack of these peaks and valleys. And this bullshit idea that we're constantly fed that you should be comfortable.
It's so true. I mean, when Goggins lived with me, his rule is we had to do something every day that sucked. That was his rule.
He's the master at that.
Yeah, tell me about it. And
what did he make you do?
Every day sucked. He didn't tell me that we're going to do that 5 times a day. That, you know. No, I mean, I remember one day, well, the first thing we did was he came and he wanted to see how many pull-ups I could do so he could map out the month. He lived with me for a month. And I went to the pull-up bar and I got like maybe 8 pull-ups, which is an exaggeration. I probably got like 4 pull-ups. You know? A lot of people are listening, so I'll say 8. And then he said, all right, wait 30 seconds, go and do it again. And I went up on the pull-up bar and I did maybe like 3 or 4. He said, all right, wait 30 seconds, I want you to do it again. And I got up on the pull-up bar and I did maybe like 1 kipping, you know, getting my damn chin over the bar barely. And I dropped down, I was all jacked up, and I said, all right, well, what's next? He said, well, what's next is we're not leaving here until you do 100 more. We're not leaving the gym until you do 100 more.
That day?
Now. Like right now.
Right now. So you had done like, 7.
I did like probably 7 or 10, and I was like, man, Goggins, that's impossible. And he said, you know, I already know what your biggest problem is. And he's like, the limitations you're putting on yourself are self-imposed. Get the fuck back on the bar. And, you know,
Jesus
Roger
Christ.
that, man. And I got up on the bar, and I over the course of an hour or 2, I did them. And that started our journey of like, you're about to go in a place where you've never been, motherfucker. You know? And, you know, we went, I remember one day I was sitting on the couch and in Connecticut where I was living at the time, and on the ticker on the TV, the emergency broadcast system came up. Stay inside. Freezing rain. Icy conditions. High winds. Stay inside. It was like beeping. Stay inside. And Goggins is like, this is amazing, man. Let's go for a run. And I'm like, they're telling us the exact opposite, man. They're broadcasting to the whole community to stay inside.
Right.
So we go for a 10-mile run in the blizzard, and we come home, and I lived on a lake, and kids are playing hockey on the lake. So we go down, and he takes his hand, and he moves all the snow off the ice. He gets a boulder, and he breaks the ice, a little hole in the ice with the boulder, and then he takes his hand, and he makes the hole a little bit bigger, and then he jumps in. And then he points at me, and he takes his finger, and he signals for me to jump in. I'm not going in the fucking freezing cold water, because my mother told me as a kid in Long Island, don't go anywhere near the frozen water. If you fall in, you have like a minute, you know?
Right.
He's bathing in it. So, of course, I go in, and he looks at me. He's like, man, you got about 2 to 4 minutes. You're going to get hypothermia. We just went on a run. We got to get you out of the lake. And I go to get out. He goes, you can't get out. He goes, if your skin touches the ice, it's going to stick to the ice like the kid in Christmas Story, his tongue that sticks to the pole, you know? So he puts my shoes back on my hands and picks my ass up and I put my socks on or whatever, and I bear crawl out of the ice, and I run up, and I see my wife looking out the window as I'm running into the house, and we come in, and she says to Goggins, you know, like, what's the medical benefit of jumping in a frozen lake? And he said to her, there's no medical benefit. She's like, this is what your husband signed up for. You know, he's like, I want to see how far he's willing to go to get to his goals. And I was like, fuck, this is going to be some 30 days, man. Jesus.
Wow. What was the toughest thing he made you do?
It was just the consistency of it. You know, it was just like, he went everywhere I went. He shadowed me for 30 days. He went to every business meeting. We flew together. He lived, with my wife and I.
Did you think, like, what the fuck did I sign up for?
This is back in 2010. So this is, yes, I did.
And the book came out 2 years ago?
No, I waited 5 years. I didn't, expect it to ever be a book. It was just like, at all. There was no book being discussed. I kept a little blog about it,
So why'd you do it?
I just felt like there was so much in it. There's so many lessons, and it was funny. Fish out of water, like he's coming into our house. My wife owns Spanx. I mean, like the whole dynamic of this shit was crazy. And I just felt there were a lot of lessons that could be learned through it. And, I just took a shot at it.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, he's a maniac. When he did the podcast, I got here, he showed up super early. And when I got here, he was already with his shirt off doing chin-ups. I was like, I walked into the back where the gym is, and he's in there. I'm like, look at this motherfucker.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's a savage.
Yeah.
He's legit.
But these are all the lessons, as you're talking about, and you don't know where the nuggets come from. You put yourself in a position for the nuggets to appear. And they don't have to be radical positions like I'm going to go get Goggins or I'm going to go live with a monk. They don't have to be radical. But you put yourself out there like you were saying, and you live a life where those lessons find you.
Yeah. And seek them.
You seek them.
Yeah. Well, Goggins' story is so fascinating because he wasn't that guy. He was fat and out of shape and unmotivated and lazy and, talked openly about the first time he ran. Like he quit. He was supposed to, he ran about 3/4 of a mile, I think he said, and quit. And he was exhausted and just drinking milkshakes and all fucked up. And somehow or another decided he's not going to be that guy anymore and went 180 degrees and became this intensely motivated Iron Man.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at the race. I saw him at the race where he broke all the bones in his feet, I saw him. I participated in that race. It's the first time I saw him. That's how I met him. And 2007. And,
He broke all the bones in his feet?
He broke, he was running 100. I was running this race. It was a 24-hour race as a relay team. I was with 4 friends. And the format of the race is, you run a mile, I run a mile, whatever team runs the most amount of miles wins the race. He had no teammates.
That sounds
I'm like him. Where's the rest of the team?
That sounds like him.
And he weighed a lot at the time. So, I watched him.
Weighed a lot. Was he bodybuilding at the time?
He was just big. Probably weighed 260, 70 pounds, maybe more.
He was deadlifting and all that stuff?
Yeah, maybe even more.
So was this the one where he ran 24 hours all around just to show that he could run 100 miles?
Yes.
And he wound up shitting himself?
Yes.
And all that? Yeah, he told me about that.
I saw it.
I didn't know he broke all the bones in his feet.
He
though.
broke some bones, yeah.
He didn't even tell me about that. And then he ran a marathon a month later.
Yeah.
He's a fucking animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he really is.
Yeah.
And he was telling me also that
Explain
he did
that to your wife when you say he's coming to live with you.
You don't know my wife. That ain't happening. She's kick us both out.
I just said it really fast. I told Sarah because I flew out. I flew out to meet Goggins after the race. You know, I cold called him, and my wife asked me how the meeting went. And in the meeting, you know, I realized like I kind of wanted to get the secret sauce. Like, what the fuck,
Right.
try, you know.
Yeah.
And
was that the idea? Like,
yeah, I was like,
by being around such an intensely motivated guy, that you would get the rub.
Get the rub, and I'd fallen into a routine I couldn't get out of. And I just, you know, like I was like, just get me out of my routine, man, you know?
Right.
And I want to learn from you and that kind of thing. And my wife asked me how the lunch meeting went, and I told her that, you know, he's come live with us. She was like, what?
So you had
I'm like,
this lunch meeting with him, and were you going to propose this before the meeting?
I went to, what happened was I went to the meeting and with no real agenda other than like, I want to meet this guy, man. You know, it's 2007. I want to meet him. 2008, something around there, was 10 years ago. And I was just so like drawn to him, you know? And I actually went home and then asked him to come, you know, live with me. And he said yes. And then I told my wife after, like, this guy's coming in 2 days.
Now, why did he say yes? I mean, isn't he busy? Did you offer him money? Like, how did this?
No, he was he was active. He was still in the military at the time, and yeah, I think I don't know exactly what triggered. I remember asking him to come, and I remember him saying to me, "If you're crazy enough to ask a guy like me to come live with you, motherfucker, I'm crazy enough to come." 3 days later, he shows up with one bag.
Knowing him, that is exactly what it would sound like if he said it with those crazy eyes.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Sweetie, this is David.
Wow. Did you give him an objective? Did you say why you wanted him to come, or what you were trying to get out of it?
At that time in my life, I had just left. If I have my timeline right, I think I just left this private jet car company. I had Marquis Jet. I was just starting out in this coconut water business, and I was in a routine. You know, I was in a rut. I was just doing the same stuff, man. I was so comfortable. And I was just like, just come shake it up, man. You know, you can travel with me. I got some meetings coming up. We'll live together. There was no book. There was no anything.
Right.
The book happened years later. And he said he would do it.
That's crazy that he just agreed.
I loved it, by the way. It was one of the best months of my life. I loved being around him. He's an amazing guy. I loved, you know, we were watching games. We were working out. I was going out midnight, 3 in the morning. We were running in the blizzards.
3 in the morning.
One day, he was like, we're going to run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. Joe, I was like, I got to work. He's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You can work in 48 hours.
Wow.
So I would wake up at midnight. We started at midnight. We would run, let's say it took us 40 minutes. And then we would come back. We'd have, you know, 3 hours and 20 minutes of rest. And then at 4 a.m. we'd go again, 4 miles. Boom, 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 48 hours.
Jesus Christ.
One time, I have fucking a million stories. I mean, we went in the sauna. And he's like, all right, we're going to stay in the sauna for, and I'm a sauna guy. I thought I was a sauna guy, by the way. I thought I was. And actually, this was the steam. And he's like, we're going to stay in here for 30 minutes, 8 ounces of water. Okay. We jack it up. It's fucking cooking in there. I walk in, I'm like, holy fuck. It's so hot in here. He sits down. He's whistling Dixie. You're like sitting in the corner doing his shit. I'm like, you know, 8 minutes in, my water's gone. I've already drank my 8 ounces of water. And about 19 minutes in, I'm like, Goggins, I got to get out. He's like, you can't get out. I'm like, no, I'm gonna pass out. I got to get out. He's like, you can't get out. I'm like, no. And I didn't even wait for him to say no again because I'm about to pass out. I can feel myself about to pass out. I open up the door. All the smoke from the steam room goes flying out of the door. I sit right in the chair. He comes storming out. And he looks at me. He's like, oh, fuck, you don't look good. I go, no, I'm going to pass out. He goes, we got to abort the mission. Like, we're not doing the rest of the 30 minutes. Like, I got to pass. That was the only pass I got.
Because you almost died in the sauna. Or the steam room.
I was fucked up.
Steam room's different because it's moisture.
And you're taking it in. I was taking in like the eucalyptus.
You're getting cooked.
Cooked.
Yeah, I mean, you're really getting cooked. It's not like with sauna, you're getting like kind of dry roasted. But in the moisture is different. Like you can't get as hot in a steam room as you can in a sauna.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was a series of these, just
getting poached
throughout the
God, no, he would just make these up, like come up with these ideas.
It was just constant, man. Like, I mean, we would go to work. We'd be sitting at work, and I'd have like a 30-minute break, and he'd be like, burpee test. I'm like, what? I'm at work. He'd be like, I want to see how many burpees you can do in 10 minutes. I'd be like, burpee test? And I would like, in the middle of work, I would like get down, take off like, whatever I was wearing. I'd get like my boxers or whatever, like just to get, and I would do as many burpees as I could in 10 minutes. And be soaking wet, and I'd walk into my next meeting, and everybody knew that was part of the thing.
So you explained to all these people that wow,
closed every deal. I closed every deal, man,
because you're so amped up.
But plus, he was there. Who's going to say no? People were fascinated. I'd walk in, and they'd be like, at the end of the meeting, I'm like, "Do you want to talk?" It's like, "Whatever the fuck you guys are in, we're in. We're in."
Wow. That sounds so much better than living with a monk.
It was.
That sounds so much better.
I miss him.
Yeah. Do you keep in touch?
Well, yeah. And we go. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but yeah. I mean, I've known him since 2007 now. I mean, it's been 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, I would think that would be hard but exciting, whereas the monk thing seems like the drone of it all would just get to you.
Yeah, and like I couldn't go back to my room and my surroundings in the monk thing. I was like in their world
forever. And they live in the same way that you did? They have a little cell as well?
Yeah. I actually didn't see their rooms, but yeah, from what I understand, even smaller than what I was in.
Smaller than this table?
My room was about the size of this table.
So theirs was smaller?
From what I understand, yeah.
How's that even possible?
Bed. There's no position. There's like just a little bed and
just go into a space with a bed. Blackout. Wake up. Start all over again. Drone.
Yeah.
No, I think the 4 miles every 40 minutes or whatever the fuck it is, or 4 miles every 4 hours. That sounds way better.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
I did at the time, but yeah.
How'd you end it? How did he end the 30 days?
He left me a note on a Post-it. Thanks.
That's it?
That's it.
Jesus. That's intense. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
My goodbyes are like long hugs.
Yeah, right.
Exchanging shit, planning. Thanks.
That would be an incredible service. Like, if he wanted to do that, just go to like billionaires and just say you have to do what I tell you to do for a month. I bet a lot of people would do that.
I'm sure.
Just charge some fucking stupid amount of money and have him live with you for a month.
That's hard. And anybody, personality-wise, over time, having roommates, it's hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So he's with you 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard.
Did he ever wake you up?
Every day.
Every day he woke you up.
Yep. Come in and tap me on the shoulder.
Time to get up. Let's do
with my wife right next to me.
Jesus Christ.
It wasn't time to do this. It was, get up, motherfucker.
That's what he would say? Well, at least he was courteous. He whispered it so it didn't wake your wife up.
Yeah.
Was your wife like, what in the fuck are you doing?
She loved him.
Wow.
She loved him.
But was she to you like, what in the fuck are you doing?
She said, you're out of your fucking mind.
Wow.
She said you're crazy.
But 30 days later, you must have been in sick shape.
Ridiculous shape. No, ridiculous. When he left, I didn't do anything for 6 weeks.
Just to catch up?
I didn't do anything for 6 weeks because I couldn't keep the intensity up. I couldn't do it. I've run 100 miles. I've done endurance paddle races. I've done all this shit. I couldn't do it.
Wow.
I was just like, why? You know? It was wild.
Damn.
I look back on that stuff, man. It's just like, I just feel so lucky to have had the opportunity. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, you're around that. You're around the best dog trainers. You're around, and I get to live with it because my wife's an amazing entrepreneur. I get to live with greatness, and just, you go around these things and it's just these people. It's just the stuff that you can learn if you allow yourself, to listen.
Yeah.
I'm not a great listener. I'm learning to be a good listener. Because even like you were giving that little monologue and you were going through it, I was like, yes, man, that shit is resonating with me on a high level. You put yourself in this position and then you have to be able to extract it and apply it.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly what I was saying is what you got out of Goggins. Like, you were around greatness. You were around a man who just does not accept mediocrity and does not accept shitty effort. He wants everything your body can do. And through doing that, you just get something more out of your mind. You get something more out of your life. Those hard days, the relaxation is earned. You appreciate it.
Yes.
Relaxation without any effort is just bullshit.
You feel proud of yourself too.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to do things that make you feel proud of yourself.
Right.
And that's when I left the monastery, you asked me well, how'd you feel when you got in the car? And the exact feeling was proud.
That you did it.
That I did it.
Wow.
I was just proud of myself. I stuck with it. I did it. And
did you have a little bit of fuck that place too?
Yes. Yes. I'm like, can I Uber Eats when I get home?
Yeah.
I'd be like,
stop at the first Five Guys burger you see.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, man. Well, listen, dude, I really appreciate you coming in here, man. I really enjoyed talking to you. It's
likewise,
fucking awesome stories. And so the 2 books are available right now. Anybody can buy them. Is there an audiobook of both?
Yes.
Audiobooks available on Audible and Apple Books and all that jazz.
Living with the Seal and Living with the Monks.
Thanks a lot, brother. Really appreciate it,
you, man.
Really
Thank you so much.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. We have a mutual friend in